little blue molecule, once used to dye fabric, could help you think clearer, feel more energized, and even possibly bring back your sense of smell. Sounds far-fetched? It's not. Today on Ageless Island, we're diving into the science and the surprising power of something called methylene blue, and how it may be the missing spark for your mitochondria and your senses that you've been waiting for. Hi, I'm Gina, and welcome back. This is your destination for staying strong, sharp, and ageless on the inside and out. If you or somebody that you care about has been stuck with long COVID symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, or even missing smells like coffee or citrus, this episode is for you. So what is methylene blue? There's a lot of talk about it in the press right now, and you see different people taking it online. You see athletes sticking out their tongues and having a blue tongue. So what it is, originally, it was a blue dye used for textiles. It was created back in the 1800s, and then they also used it on the slides to highlight things they wanted to look at under a microscope. And what was interesting is they found out when they were looking that it was actually killing some of those parasites. They looked a little further, it was killing bacteria, and it was also good for killing mold. So it was originally used for a cure for malaria. It was used for many years. The military used it because then it shows up as blue in your pee, so they could check to make sure that the soldiers were taking their medication before they deployed in the field. Then once pharmaceuticals became a little bit bigger, now they're using other things. It was also used in the hospitals for traumatic brain injuries, but this was more prevalent, I would say, back in the 40s and the 50s. However, recently, after COVID especially, it's been rediscovered in longevity circles. It's been found to help boost your mitochondria, reduces oxidative stress, and it'll support your memory, your focus, and even your recovery when you've been sick. So why should you care about methylene blue? Those are some really good reasons right there, but they help your mitochondria, and mitochondria are your little powerhouses in your cell that make the energy more efficient. And it's really important if you're tired, if you've been stressed, or if your mitochondria have been injured from something like a sickness or from COVID. And just a quick reminder before we go further, I'm not a doctor, and this isn't medical advice. I am just sharing my research and my experience, in this case, my husband's experience too, and insights from my own wellness journey. Always please check with your healthcare provider, especially on something like this that is a synthetic and not something that occurs naturally before you would start something like methylene blue. So why does COVID take your smell away? Because that's kind of interesting. Not too many things we have or illnesses that we've had do that. And that was a very strange thing when everybody got sick and they couldn't smell or taste anymore. So what happens is you have these little tiny cells in your nose, and COVID enters, and they're high up in your nose. And COVID isn't really directly affecting those neurons so much as it's affecting these little support cells to those neurons. So you could think of these little cells as like little gardeners protecting those neurons. They clean them, they feed them, and they protect them. And then COVID came along and it destroys the gardeners. So, like in your garden, when you don't take care of it, those things can die or be damaged. So COVID damages those mitochondria from the support cells and causes inflammation that shuts down the energy supply to your smell system. So this can lead to smell loss, total smell loss. It can make your smells weird or distorted. This is called parosmia. Or you can have your smells fading in and out. And the bad thing is, sometimes your smell can come back really fast, but in a lot of times it can take a while for these cells to heal themselves and to regrow. So even if you feel like you're smelling, you may not be smelling as well as you were before. It can be a really slow recovery. So if you've experienced a loss of smell from COVID or from something else, that would be interesting too. Drop me a line in the comments down below. It would be really interesting to hear some other people's experiences and find out what you did to get your smell back, or if you still don't have it back. So in doing research for this episode, I looked and found a lot of, talking to friends too, a lot of recovery stories online about people sharing their stories when they started taking methylene blue and what it did for them. One person said they started taking methylene blue, and within months they could smell citrus again, and they hadn't smelled that in a long time. Somebody said after 2 weeks I could smell my morning coffee, which is really important to them because they were coffee drinkers. Somebody else said taste improved, food stopped tasting like cardboard. But my best example is my husband, Sam. So he lost his taste about 2 years ago from COVID. Well, he didn't lose it completely. He actually could smell good things, but they were muted. But bad things would smell like this fake, chemically awful smell that just smelled man-made. And it had been that way for 2 years. So we decided to try methylene blue, not for his sense of smell, because we didn't even know that was something that was possible, but we had believed he picked up a parasite in our travels down to Mexico, because when he got back, different things would trigger, bad reactions from his stomach. So we heard methylene blue as possibly something that could help with that. So what was crazy was just within 4 days of taking methylene blue, his sense of smell completely came back. And, we can't be certain it's methylene blue, but with the timing, and we tried other things, it came back within the 4 days. And the other funny thing was he didn't even realize his taste had gotten off, but we had been going to this restaurant pretty regularly, and he stopped ordering his favorite thing because he said it was just tasting weird and they weren't making it as good. So we went back to the restaurant about a week after, and he got his old thing again. And he said, it was so good. He said, it tastes like it used to taste. And then we kind of laughed because we both realized at the same time that it was probably not that they had ever changed, but it was with his taste not being right. He wasn't tasting like it really tasted anymore. So that's just one case. I know it's anecdotal, but methylene blue might really be doing more than we realize. It made us curious. So a lot of people out there reporting better focus, more energy, improved motivation, and a lot of them, their smell's returning within a few weeks. Please like this video and subscribe for more ways to keep your senses and your brain sharp. So what's the science behind methylene blue? So imagine the mitochondria as power plants inside your cell. And there's something called complex 1 in your mitochondria. And when that breaks down due to illness or stress or even aging, your energy production in that cell or multiple cells will stall out. So what methylene blue does is it comes in and it kind of acts like a smart power strip to donate electrons, to give energy to these tired cells. And it also, in addition to giving them energy, also protects them. So it'll protect from the free radicals that can spark the damage. And it will restart energy production back in those damaged cells. So especially the neurons in the mitochondria that have been hit by infection, the anti-inflammatory and the neuroprotective is huge for smell loss after COVID. Also in animal studies, methylene blue has been shown to protect and even regenerate neurons, including the delicate ones that are used for smell. So after COVID, inflammation and mitochondrial damage can knock off the olfactory system completely offline. So methylene blue may step in to combat inflammation, to restore cellular energy, and try to help those neurons come back online. The other cool thing about methylene blue is it can cross your blood-brain barrier so that it can reach that area of your olfactory bulb, which is your brain's smell processing center, potentially supporting healing. It's shown promise also for brain fog, fatigue, and smell recovery. So as far as safety, again, I told you this is a synthetic, so you want to be a little more careful with this than maybe some of your other supplements that you're taking. Again, you should always discuss your particular issue, your problem, what you're concerned with your health provider, and talk about the medicines that you're currently on to make sure this would be right for you. We started slowly, and I recommend if you do it, you start slowly too, because this is a really weird one. Everybody is dosing differently on it, and the impacts that you see for everybody is different. Some people have an effect at 1 drop. Other people are taking like 40 drops. I mean, some people are taking more, but that's kind of crazy. So like I said, we started at 2 drops, and what it is about 1 drop is equal to about 0.5 milligrams. And now my husband Sam is at 8 milligrams a day, and I am at 11. And it seems to affect us both differently. Another story to share about his. So because we think he had the parasite going on, and because he had the loss of smell, he had some damage going on in his system. So when he started taking it, for about the first 3 days, he had this kind of funny off feeling, got kind of clammy, got some chills, and just felt off. But we read that can happen. So as your body's releasing those toxins out of the system, as they leave your body reacts by having these kind of odd feelings. With me, I didn't feel anything like that. I do feel a little bit more energized. I feel like it helps my workouts. And I feel like just based on the research I'm doing that it's definitely helping my mitochondria. I have looked at other supplements in my stack to make sure I'm taking everything at the right time. Because berberine, for instance, is a really popular supplement, but it kind of does the negative of what methylene blue does. So you want to space those apart from each other. You don't want to take them back to back because it can confuse your system. So when you're buying methylene blue, some things to consider. First of all, it's still considered experimental and it's not approved by the FDA. But if you're going to experiment with it, Look for pharmaceutical grade or USP grade. So that means it's been purified up to a medical standard that's clean and free of toxins. So how do you know this? They need to provide third-party testing. If you're buying something that doesn't give you the third-party testing results, that's a major red flag. I wouldn't recommend buying it. So what they provide you is a certificate of analysis, or a COA, and it will show those levels that they've been tested for, how much heavy metal, how much arsenic, if there's any bacteria. And that's something you really want to know about before you put it in your body. You don't want to think you're doing something good and actually be adding heavy metals to your body. Also, you don't want something that has fillers. You don't want any extra dye, which I'm not sure why they would put in, but some people do. And you want to be sure it's a reputable source, a well-known longevity company or a compounding pharmacy, for instance. We get ours for experimental purposes from a company in England called CTZL, and they deliver it as a 1 gram of blue powder, and then we mix our own in 100-liter bottles. We get the little blue dropper bottles, and you put in 100 milliliters per gram for a 1% solution. Some major things to consider, concerns when you're thinking about using methylene blue. You don't want to try this if you're on MAOIs or SSRIs, because there's a risk of something called serotonin syndrome, because methylene blue can also help your mood, that if you get too much of the serotonin and good feelings building up, it can actually have really bad side effects and can even lead to death. So that's something I would not do if I was taking SSRIs unless a doctor definitely told me to do it. There's also something called a G6PD deficiency, which can trigger a dangerous red blood cell breakdown. That's something that you only know you have if you've got a DNA test done to determine that. Also, if you have kidneys that don't function as well, because it does have to be processed through your kidneys, and it can lead to a buildup, you might not want to try methylene blue. Also, it's not recommended during pregnancy or breastfeeding, just because of lack of safety data. Also, drinking excessive alcohol can increase, it's just not going to make it as effective. It's going to kind of negate the results. It can increase oxidative stress, and it could put a bigger strain on your liver. And then just something fun, like I said, it's going to turn your urine kind of a blue-green color. This is normal, and it can also kind of help you with dosing. So, if you're super bright blue, maybe you're taking too much. If you're clear, you probably are taking a good dose. There's some other factors like taking vitamin C that can also make it more clear, but that's just something to be aware of that's going to happen. So methylene blue isn't just for smell. It's not going to be your only consideration possibly when you decide you want to try it out. Like I said, it's been shown a lot of promise for brain fog, fatigue, muscle weakness, and long COVID recovery. And why is that? The scientists think it's because of the impact on the mitochondria, because methylene blue can help with your muscle energy, improve your circulation, and calm inflammation, which is left behind from a COVID infection. It's not a magic bullet, but it is one of the few tools that's showing a real promise and hopeful result. So should you try methylene blue? If your world's lost its scent or your brain still feels foggy months after being sick, so methylene blue might be a gentle, affordable way to support your healing. But again, always talk to your doctor first and consider the other medications you're taking. But for many people, this little blue molecule is helping bring back life and scent. Thanks again for listening to Ageless Island. If this video didn't stink, give it a like and hit subscribe so you don't miss a whiff of what's next. And please share it with somebody who's still on their recovery journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and ageless. And thank you, John Patty, for supplying your music to our intro and outros.